Sonic the Hedgehog, the first entry in the franchise, the game that started it all, released for the Sega Genesis Mega Drive in North America and Europe on the 23rd of June 1991 by Sonic Team. The concept of high-speed platforming in a video game was unique for its time, and the zany advertisements of going fast based on the Bluebird's extraordinary speed helped solidify the style of gameplay that would become a staple of the series. The whole concept of Sonic began after Sega wanting a mascot that could rival Nintendo's Red Plumber, Mario. Little will we know that Sonic's entry in the gaming world will be well praised and become a massive commercial success, boosting the mascot into major popularity and result in the first counterattack in the rivalry showdown throughout the 90s, with a successful era of Sonic games spanning many sequels and spin-offs. Now for me, the classic era games wasn't my first entry into the series, partly because I didn't own a Sega Mega Drive console at the time. And also, I wasn't introduced to Sonic around, 2004 when I was 8 years old, but that wasn't an issue. You see, over the years, Sonic 1 has been ported numerous times to collection pieces and re-releases. Now the Sega collections include the Sega Genesis Collection, the Sonic Mega Collection, the Sonic Classic Collection, which was my first experience with the Little Blue Hedgehog, and the Sega Genesis Collection for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC and Nintendo Switch. Now there is a story, believe it or not, that the game doesn't tell you. You boot it up, go straight to Sega screen, title menu, and then you're off. But the plot can be summarized as this. Sonic the Hedgehog discovers that Dr. Robotnik has been kidnapping his animal buddies on South Island and converting them into robotic badniks as part of his plan to collect the Chaos Emeralds. And it's up to Sonic to embark on a quest to free his friends, collect the Chaos Emeralds first, and stop Robotnik's evil schemes. As Sonic, you speed through the zones, encountering Robotnik on numerous occasions and free the animals trapped from capsules. Compared to how platform games were in the 90s, Sonic the Hedgehog plays pretty much identical, but a primary focus on speeding fast gameplay and quick reflexes, with the fun experience of gaining momentum and speed by rolling into a ball and travelling up and down slopes and ramps, which can launch yourself into the air to gain distance or spin to badniks quickly with no harm. Throughout the game, there are 7 zones in each zone, except the final zone, are divided into 3 full-length acts, with a boss battle at the end of Act 3. Essential to the gameplay are gold rings scattered throughout each level, which will become one of the defining characteristics of the series. The rings serve multiple functions, from protection of losing a life when getting hit by a badnik or obstacle, to earning an extra life after collecting 100 rings. As well as rings, there are item monitors scattered throughout each act, which are also a defining feature of the series. The item monitors hold one of a variety of a bonus: a shield, which protects Sonic from a single hit, invincibility, speed shoes or power sneakers, which temporarily gives Sonic a speed boost, 10 rings, and an extra life. Progression of the game are semi-safe with checkpoints scattered across the level disguised as lampposts. Passing by a lamppost will trigger the top to spin and change colour from blue to red, and losing a life will reset Sonic back to the point at the checkpoint instead of the beginning of the act, making game progression easier. For the purpose of this video, I replayed the 2013 re-release of Sonic 1, the Christian Whitehead version on mobile devices, mainly for the steady 60 FPS, widescreen support, and the remastered soundtrack. Now, it's been a good while since I replayed Sonic 1 for some good leisure and just to rediscover what I like about the game and remember why Sonic 1 is a good game even after 30 years later. Sega! Ah, such nostalgia. We start off with Green Hill Zone, the zone that will become an iconic staple of the franchise. Hills that have green grass, waterfalls filling up lakes, bright flowers that move, accompanied by tall palm trees and totem poles, and checkerboard patterns in different shades of brown. Green Hill's levels design is fast-paced, thanks to curling tunnels and shuttle slopes that help build up speed and momentum. You feel so fast and alive when you blaze through the acts quickly. A great introduction to how speed and platforming is implemented. The first boss battle against Robotnik features a wrecking ball attached below the Eggmobile that swings back and forth, a concept that will be later reused by Miley Cyrus. But it's easy to avoid, so spam jump on Robotnik multiple times to secure a win. It goes even quicker if you obtain invincibility before reaching the end. I should probably explain about the special stages, shouldn't I? If you reach the end of an act with 50 rings or more, a giant golden ring will float above the gold plate, which can be jumped through to enter a special stage in order to get a chance to get a Chaos Emerald. Or you could just ignore it. Your choice. I don't tell you what to do. Live your life. In special stages, Sonic falls through a series of rotating mazes in ball form. The objective is to control him by avoiding the goal signs to find and collect a Chaos Emerald, which are encased in coloured diamonds. Touching the diamonds repeatedly will cause them to change colour from blue to green to yellow to pink and then disappear, allowing access to the Chaos Emerald. The special stage ends once you either collected the Chaos Emerald or touched the goal signs, which will happen quite often because it's quite a challenge to control Sonic. If you collect 50 rings in the special stage, you will receive a continue at the end, which you will need if you lose all of your lives and want to prevent from having to start from the very beginning again. Cause it will happen. Guaranteed. There are 10 opportunities to get the Chaos Emeralds, which mean you can fail only 4 times if you plan to beat the game with all the emeralds at your disposal. And it's all luck if you get the emerald without touching the goal signs, so no pressure, you've got this. Special stages can suck my dick. Next, we head off to Marble Zone, an ancient room with an underground dungeon maze filled with narrow corridors, traps, and lava pools. And immediately, it's understandable that the zone is more platform heavy than Green Hill's focus on speed. The focus on platforming meant that you have to pay attention and go slow to avoid getting hit, and quite possibly losing lives. The zone is filled with not only lava pools but also spiked weights, fireballs, and bats badniks. It's slow and very dull, and from my understanding, it's not everyone's enjoyable stage, and I agree with that. It's not fun going slow. It doesn't help that travelling on platforms over lava goes slow too. It only gets fun when you reach the end of the act after being slow and careful for nearly 5 minutes, marking it one of the longest zones in the game. At the end of Act 3, Robotnik attacks with improvement to his craft that shoots fireballs on the platforms that Sonic can set foot on. Still as easy to beat, just requires more waiting and patience to land hits. In short, a long, slow-paced stage. Spring Yard Zone, an urban level that features a pinball-like aesthetic with many springs and bumpers scattered around. Surely everyone did this, right? Now, I'm not sure if I was the only one, but when I got to Spring Yard Zone all those years ago, I got my first game over. Probably because I suck balls. I'm not kidding. I got a game over on Spring Yard Zone on my first go, most likely due to constantly getting crushed by platforms, which are common throughout the zone with many platforms plays. And you'll get hit a lot and lose rings quickly thanks to the onslaught of spikes and roller badniks and spike balls that float, hover and move around in various patterns and speeds around certain platforms. Spring Yard is a lot more open than the maze-like structure of Marble Zone, and it mixes both speed and platforming throughout its 3 acts. So it's better than Marble Zone, but not quite as good as Green Hill since it's a continuous cycle of stop-start, going from platforming to speed, and then going slow for platforming, and vice versa. Thanks to addition of speed, the acts are shorter than the previous zone, making it more enjoyable to progress. After crossing a large bottomless pit and arriving at an arena, Dr. Robotnik arrives in his Eggmobile with a tractable spike underneath and attempts to impale Sonic on the spike. All you basically have to do is avoid his attacks and hit him, right? Well, it sounds simple, but the spike will lift up and scatter the block, making it slightly more difficult to avoid falling into the bottomless pit and losing a life. This does increase the boss difficulty as dragging the fight can and will result in Robotnik creating a huge gap enough that jumping will result into submitting to the bottomless pit, and thus forced to patiently across in the battle. This can be one of the toughest boss fights in the game, and can be quite nerve-wracking if you don't pay attention and react enough to attack. But once you know what needs to be done, then you should be good to go. Now, on to the next zone. Labyrinth Zone. No! Labyrinth Zone is the worst zone in the game, and possibly the worst zone in all of the stages in the franchise. Sonic's greatest hazard in this zone isn't a specific badnik, nor is it a trap. It's water. This zone introduces narrow underwater sections and tunnels that can be travelled through, but there are underwater physics, meaning you travel so slow, and since you're underwater, you can't breathe. So you're relying on trying to get back onto the surface for air, or resort to finding air bubbles that give you temporary relief, resetting the counter to Sonic's demise by drowning. Also, this zone relies heavily on platforming, so mix that with being underwater for the majority of the time, and you're in for a fun time. There are loads of spear traps and multiple badniks in the way, so patience is key yet again, whilst keeping in mind that you're struggling to breathe. There are also puzzles out there that you need to navigate to progress, adding more to the stress. If you didn't get a game over in the previous zones, then you most likely did here. And thus, true fear welcomed itself. Hearing this numerous times has probably given people severe anxiety and PTSD. And I should know, I have this as my alarm for wanting to get up for work. At least air bubbles are located everywhere in the zone, so you have plenty of opportunities to refill up on air and continue living. Act 3 is very unforgiving, especially for the end section of the boss. For starters, the encounter is more on surviving, rather than hitting multiple times till you defeat it. The main goal of the boss is to chase down the Eggmobile through an ascending, rugged and dangerous route that has numerous spear traps and fire statues which are able to make you lose your rings. At the same time, the water level rises, making it more difficult to avoid obstacles and drowning, because there are no air bubbles whatsoever, nor any rings to collect. So if you lose a life during this section, you have to redo the section with no rings at all. There is a convenient shield monitor before the hike, but even then you'll have to reach the top without getting hit more than once or even drowning, allowing little to no error. And since it's a very narrow and steep ascent with many spear traps, especially if you become submerged, which you will, this makes this the hardest boss fight encounter in the game, period. Don't make me experience that ever again. Please don't. Starlight Zone. A starry, roller coaster-like city construction zone. A very peaceful zone set in an urban environment. This zone is filled with many loops and roller coaster-like sections that help Sonic hurl along paths at great speed, showcasing the game's strongest point of reaching top speed. Green Hill introduces you of building up speed and momentum, and Starlight takes advantage of making you maintain that speed and use it to reach the goalpost as quickly as possible. This zone features very little badniks, however there is one that cannot be destroyed. The Bomb Badnik. These prominent voids are smart walking bombs that will explode a short while after approaching them. So if you get stuck in a corner or have to backtrack due to realizing you're going in the wrong directions, just pray that you don't get caught in the blast radius. The biggest hazard is bottomless pits, and they're located nearly everywhere. While they were in other zones, they are very prominent here, so you'll most likely fall to your death rather than getting hit with no rings. The zone does feature fans, descending stairways and seesaws that sometimes will throw you off guard and into the wrong direction, and possibly bottomless pits, so some backtracking will happen, but once you're in the correct pathway, time to go fast. The boss fight is pretty easy, simple actually. You have Robotnik dropping mines onto seesaws which you send them flying back by jumping onto the other end of the seesaw, damaging the Eggmobile in the process. You can also get sent upwards if a landmine hits on the opposite end of the seesaw that you're at, allowing you to damage the mobile yourself. Again, one of the easiest boss battles in the game. Scrap Brain Zone. Nearing the end of the game, and we are met with metal floors, razor sharp saws, flame vents, grinding wheels, and disappearing and rotating platforms in an industrial superstructure. Oh yeah, this screams the endgame.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Scrap Brain Zone's difficulty relies on its relentless amounts of traps and setup traps popping up when you least expect it, no matter what route you take, making you try not to rush through the zone if you want to bag up rings and not waste your precious lives. This zone is quite large and long level, with many different routes that can be taken, mixing open sections and enclosed spaces that test your platforming and reflexes skills. The surfaces are mainly basic and flat, so you won't be speeding through like in Starlight Zone as there are no slopes to build up momentum. Oh look, it's Robotnik! And we're gone. Great! Huh? Wait a minute. Labyrinth Zone? Surely it cannot be bad, since we have tackle 3 acts of it already. How hard can it be? It's much worse. Why? Well, air bubbles are scarce across the whole underwater cavern, so you'll be in a constant fear of drowning, with the drowning thing actively waiting you for your demise. So you are forced to cover long distances on one breath, racing against the clock to reach the next bubble. Also more traps, cause you know, it's the last act of the game, so it has to be hard. Thus, all of this makes this Labyrinth Zone hard mode, or simply Labyrinth Zone Act 4. However, there is a way to bypass this. At the beginning, there's a button that you press to make the floor descend. If quick enough, you can fall in front of the floor and go down the slope. Onwards, if you avoid falling down the pits, you can find yourself at the end of the level in under a minute, avoiding mostly all danger. It's nice that there is a shortcut to skip the torture of doing another Labyrinth Zone act, but if you don't get that shortcut... Okay, we've made it out and into the final zone. Back in Scrap Brain Zone in the sinister laboratory, the final boss fight of the game, and one of the most challenging ones. There are no rings available, so you have to beat Robotnik without getting hit once. Dr. Robotnik attacks you by attempting to crush you with 4 large engine pistons. Dodging the pistons gives you a chance to attack Robotnik, who is in one of them, and this is the only way to get a hit. Between the piston cycles, there is a small electric generator that creates 4 electrical spark balls that descend from the ceiling towards your position, and you have to dodge it as well, as touching it results in death. The cycle repeats itself until you hit Robotnik enough times, or if you lose your life and get a game over. You better pray that you have some continues saved up, otherwise, have fun replaying the whole game again just to get back to where you start up to. Yay! We have cleared the game and now back in Green Hill where peace has been restored, Sonic's animals friends are back and we agree with victory pose followed by the game's title and credits. Now technically there is an alternative ending sequence based on if you collected all the Chaos Emeralds, but it's really not worth it just for a different visual sequence of Sonic and a sprite animation of Robotnik at the end. Apart from bragging rights for 100% completing Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. The soundtrack of Sonic the Hedgehog is great, even 30 years later, and still memorable, especially Green Hill Zone, as everyone knows that iconic tune. The soundtrack has a good range of different genres that help fit the themes of each zone. Now obviously some tracks are better than others, but as a whole, the soundtrack kicks ass, with my favourites being Spring Yard for the groovy track and funky bassline that best represents a casino-like location, and Starlight Zone for its cool, calm melody and soft, gentle rhythm, which is also a fan favourite. For a game that is now 30 years old, its simplistic design and sharp visuals help keep the age very well. Sonic Team took the basic platforming formula and injected with a dosage of speed that was never attempted before. Sonic 1 was a true marvel, both graphically with its crisp, colourful and imaginative environments, and the use of curved terrain that helped provide the rolling physics that made the game flow so well. Sonic the Hedgehog is a true classic and should be experienced by everyone. If you have yet to play it and want to discover Sonic's roots, then I cannot recommend any other version than the Christian Whitehead version on mobile devices. Unless you really want to play the OG and get that OG experience, but you don't own a Mega Drive, then the compilations are your best bet. Just not the GBA version. No one should have to suffer that one. We don't even need to mention it. Hey, I'm stuck. Could you help me? Yeah, sure thing. What zone are you stuck on? I can't remember the name, but I know there's lots of walls, and spears, and water.